Hi, we're about to talk to you about the topic of adult toys, but before we begin, we'd like to inform you that there are no sexually explicit images or descriptions in our talk.
Hi, I'm g0ldfisk.
And I'm Follower.
And we've been described as the dynamic hacker duo. So what exactly is a hacker? In one sense, it's someone who looks at the world and asks themselves two questions. How does it work? And what else can we make it do? And this is a story about one of those times. This is the WeVibe 4 Plus. It's a wearable couples vibrator that comes with a mobile app you can use to control it or allow someone else to control it over the internet. You might be thinking this is some crazy space age stuff, but WeVibe say they have a customer base of over 2 million people, and internet connected devices are becoming increasingly commonplace.
So while this story is about a device that may not be relevant to you, it could just as easily be about your fitness tracker or your wireless light bulb or your fork.
So, our investigation of the first question, how does it work? And while we're looking into this, one of the things we found was that when you use this device with the app, it's sending back real-time usage data to the manufacturer.
Yes, that's right. Every time that you turned on the device, once a minute, it would send the temperature of the device to the manufacturer. And then whenever you interacted with the vibrator, so when you pressed a button to change the intensity or the pattern, it would send that back in real time as well. And so from this, you would be able to gather how often someone used the device, when they used it, where they used it, and for how long. And none of this information and the fact that it was being collected was disclosed by the manufacturer, which was kind of a surprising discovery.
So we went to the DEF CON Computer Security Conference in Vegas, and it turns out we weren't the only ones interested in this, and we received some international press coverage.
And it was interesting when we started reading some of the headlines, because it soon became clear that one of the reasons why data collection from a device like a vibrator is significant is because the context in which it was presented was very much dependent on the culture and the context of the society. And so instead of focusing on the behavior of the manufacturer, there was more moral judgments about the people who were using the device in the first place.
So how does this happen? How did this come to be that the information about your usage is being sent back? Well, you may or may not be aware that collecting usage data on mobile apps is industry's standard practice. So a lot of apps, when you're using them, there'll be the information is recorded about what app you're using, when you're using it, and what you're using it to do. So when you have an app that's connected to a physical device, this may seem like an extension, but is that always an appropriate practice when there's something you're interacting with in the real world and you may not be aware of what data it's collecting from you or what could be inferred from that? And about a month after our talk, a lawsuit was filed against the manufacturers of the WeVibe by a woman who definitely thought it wasn't appropriate that they were collecting this data about her vibrator usage.
So how can we establish what data collection might or might not be appropriate? We've found it helpful to think of connected devices as lying on a device intimacy spectrum. So at one end you have a light bulb which is connected to the internet, and it can't reveal too much personal information about you, and so that's a less intimate device. And at the other end of the scale, you have something like a connected heart pacemaker, which knows a lot about you and your body and the things that are happening in it. And then somewhere between these two extremes, you have a device like a vibrator.
So where a device lies on your spectrum is not just about what information it's collecting, but what happens with that information. So it could go to sales, used to sell you more stuff. It could go to your insurance company. Maybe your insurance premium goes up if you haven't done enough steps on your Fitbit. And maybe it's of interest to law enforcement and government. And in their privacy policy, WeVibe say they reserve the right to disclose your information. And this could be an issue in places in the world where it's illegal to own a sex toy, and in some states and cities in the US. And in one case in Malaysia, the possession of a vibrator was used to convict a couple of homosexual activity.
And it's not just the people who are using a device that are at legal risk. As we've seen, the manufacturer themselves when someone decides that perhaps they're collecting too much data may subject them to a lawsuit as well.
So we're standing up here, but it's not up to us what you feel comfortable with and where you would place different things on your device intimacy spectrum. So dependent on what culture you're in or what repercussions of this information or even just your personal comfort and boundaries, this is entirely a personal thing. So we think it's important that this conversation happens transparently and out in the open so people using these devices can make their own choices about their information and their personal devices that they're using. So it's not arbitrarily decided by the manufacturers as it was with Standard Innovation Corporation manufacturers of the Wi-Fi.
And talking about these topics of conversation openly can make a difference. About a month or two after the talk and the lawsuit, the manufacturer did add an opt-out button, which was a good start to the conversation and responding to people who had concerns about their data collection practices. So when you're next looking to buy a connected device, remember to stop and think and ask yourself, what's this device saying about me behind my back? Thank you.
Thank you.